Ritual monsters were secretly extra deck monsters by TGS Anime. But before we get into the video proper, I did want to cite a couple of things. One, I am sorry for my lack of Yu-Gi-Oh content, especially TGS Anime. I absolutely love his content. Want to watch more of his content. However, it's kind of been hard to kind of jumble and juggle all the things that I react to which I did try to make some sort of solution. Link to my actual channel, Kip Reacts. If you scroll down, these are all other channels that I own, to which one is Kip Yugioh. Only 5 shorts up on there right now. It's one of those things that I kind of do as passion projects kind of thing, kind of focusing on Yu-Gi-Oh specifically rather than, you know, the entirety of the Kip Reacts backlog. If you feel that reactions to Yu-Gi-Oh content would be better served as, say, maybe a once-a-week upload over on Kip Yugioh, kind of like how I do a once-a-week thing over on Tactikip, let me know, and I can see about trying to move some of that over there. Looking for some feedback on that. Alas! Let's get into Ritual Monsters.
While making this video, I had one of these moments. I noticed during Loomis and Umbra's duel that when he ritual summoned, he had 5 cards in his hand.
Sure.
But after, he had 4. But wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. This is because, well, he has 5 cards in his hand. He activates the ritual spell, tributing the 2 monsters on the field to activate it. He then summons the ritual monster in his hand. By my maths, he should have 3 cards left in his hand, but he doesn't. Animation error, you might say. Inconsistencies in hands in the anime, they do happen a lot, but not in this case. Instead, I think I have made a shocking discovery.
I'm curious on his entire thought process to this. I mean, the way I've always interpreted it is that, at least in the anime, ritual monsters always have been extra deck. Unfortunately, in the TCG, they're main deck, which leads to a lot of cloggage issues. That's why things like Necros came along and they had a lot of value, right? If you're a ritual monster, you have to have the catalyst in hand, right? You have to have the ritual spell. You have to have the monster in hand reasonably, right? And then you have to have, obviously, whatever tribute fodder that you need. So if you're able to say, I don't know, Necros Mirror and just drop a shooting Quasar from your, you know, from your extra deck or something, right? Or, oh God, what was the level 6 that was used? Cataster was the level 5, I think a lot of people used. Ally just Cataster. It starts entering a situation where there's too many pieces. However, if they were an extra deck monster type, right, say Fusion, Link, Asynchro, Ixie, etc., right, if they were along that line, I think they would have seen a lot more competitive play because there's less that they have to worry about.
Honestly, I actually haven't seen anybody else talk about online or anywhere. I've Googled it enough, but no one seems to talk about it.
This is so odd to me. I've literally had these discussions, though. Like, I know for a fact I've had these discussions with people. This is actually kind of blowing my mind. Has nobody actually discussed this? Really?
Not a big deal or anything like that. Ritual monsters in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime are extra deck monsters.
Yeah,
keep in mind that statement is exclusive only to Duelist Kingdom and Battle City. Everything after that, they follow the real world rules.
Right.
Ritual monsters have to be in your hand and the ritual spell to get them to the field. To confirm this, let's take a look every time a ritual monster was summoned. Let's start first with... First crazy fact I'm going to lay down, there's not that many ritual monsters in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime. In fact, there's only a whopping 7 in total throughout the entirety of Duelist Kingdom and Battle.
I forget Mystical Beast Circuit would be considered a ritual. I'm so used to it being an effect monster because I play the TCG. Wow, that's interesting to think about.
City. Outside of these 2 seasons, what else is there? There's 5-headed dragon, that one ritual monster, the ice thing that Darts played. Kaiba summons the Paladin of White Dragon. I think that's it. I think there's only 3 other ones. So I think you get 10 ritual summons throughout the entire Duel Monsters series. Kind of crazy. Specifically for season 1, we get 3 rituals. Duelist Kingdom, well, it's got wacky rules. Basically, it has D&D ruling spliced with Yu-Gi-Oh! I've done a whole video on this explaining how the mechanics work, but what is interesting is that fusion monsters in Duelist Kingdom are not extra deck monsters.
Yes.
They're not main deck monsters. They are fabricated monsters. The physical cards don't exist. There might be a list somewhere that lists every single potential fusion, or you can just fuse any 2 cards together. And basically the dueling arena will fabricate a combination of those 2 monsters. However,
no, he's absolutely correct. And Duelist Kingdom, this is actually why I have an aneurysm every time I watch Duelist Kingdom. I'm going to attack the moon! Anyways, Well, I have an aneurysm every time I watch Duelist Kingdom, strictly because it is an RPG following with a sorry, it is an RPG first and foremost with a loose set of card rules kind of following it, right? And thus you have, you know, Red Eyes Black Dragon being fused with Meteor Dragon for Meteor Black Dragon, right? You have a lot of these, I think he words it correctly, fabrications on what is used, to which you try to translate that to a physical product. You're just not going to keep up. Like, for all intents and purposes, you're just not going to be able to keep up with that. Well, what happens if I fuse Celtic Guardian with Blue Eyes White Dragon? Okay, sure, maybe you get Celtic Celtic insert fusion here, right? Chat comment section. I'll let you figure that one out, right? Or what if I want to fuse Mystical Elf with Mammoth Graveyard, right? It's like, okay, but there's still so many things. And so then how do you address this problem? You limit the scope of what's being used. And I think that's where we start getting into the modern design of it, right? Where you have things like Alistair the Invoker combined with one light monster to make Invoked Mechaba, or as I like to call it, Invoked Mecha Uwu, right? Or you have things like Albion, Titaniclad, Shadal Construct, right? I totally forgot the other thing that I play. Yubel. Oh, how did I forget Yubel? I literally play the deck. I bought the Fiendsmith package just for Yubel. I spent way too much on that. But like, Yubel Loving Defender forever, and then thematically uses Super Poly. It's kind of got a Super Poly type of effect where it's like, yeah, depending on how many cards are used, you can burn 500 for each, right? Kind of being like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, use Super Poly for this, that kind of thing. So it's really fascinating to see how, you know, you have older cards like this, and then you start getting to modern game design, and then you see how, yeah, things were fabrications, but even if they're fabrications, now we kind of need to, you know, we would have, you know, fusion monsters that are half the set, right? When that's not necessarily the intent. And it's really interesting to see how Yu-Gi-Oh! Evolved as a game and as a series alongside each other, because certain things draw from each other. We'll get into balancing later, and why Crystal Beasts are an interesting balancing point specifically. No, he's absolutely on the money here, though. I feel like he absolutely is cooking with this.
It's not the same for Ritual Monsters. They are physical cards because we see Maximilian Pegasus have his relinquished on the field, proving they are actual cards. Where is that relinquished coming from? Is it being summoned from his hand, the deck, or the extra deck? To find the answer, let's look at the first Ritual Summon. In Yugi's duel with My Valentine, we see Yugi's hand constantly, and not once does he ever have the Blackluster Soldier Ritual Monster in his hand. In fact, he is specifically searching for a different card, the Ritual Spell, and as soon as he top decks that Ritual Spell, he activates it to summon his Blackluster Soldier. So this is a case where we don't actually need to check about the amount of cards in his hand changing after he activates it. Was the spell and the monster sent away? Well, it doesn't matter. We saw his hand the turn before. No Blackluster Soldier. He top decks the Ritual Spell, uses it. Where did Blackluster Soldier come from? Well, my guess is from the extra deck. Yeah. It's worth mentioning now as well, throughout Duelist Kingdom, Ritual Monsters need the tributes for their summon to be on the field in order for their summon. So the way this works in Duelist Kingdom is when you activate a ritual, you have to have typically a specific monster on the field. You tribute the other monster and you stick this essence in the new vessel, and this creates and transforms that monster into a new ritual form. For example, when Yugi used Blackluster Ritual, Gaia the Fierce Knight became the Blackluster Soldier when it was infused with Karibo. Again, with Black Magic Ritual, Dark Magician became the Magician of Black Chaos. Finally, for Pegasus, Dark Eyes Illusionist became relinquished. That's just a little fun fact, not necessarily anything to do, but we're learning about rituals today. So yeah, what was the next ritual that was summoned in Duelist Kingdom? Well, it was... Pegasus activates his Black Illusion ritual that he has set face down, tributing Dark Eyes Illusionist on the field to summon relinquished. Yet again, we never see the relinquished monster in his hand, even though we do see his hand a couple times. In fact, Pegasus has 6 cards in his hand when he performs the ritual summon. His hand after the ritual stays exactly the same. He didn't summon anything from his hand, so relinquished must have come from somewhere else. That is 2/3 of the hand checks done. Final check. For Magician of Chaos, we see Yugi's hand. He has a bunch of stuff in there, but no ritual. He draws 2 cards for his 2 turns after and uses both of them. These were Mystic Box and Brain Control. Finally, he uses the ritual spell of a Yugi set face down earlier in the duel. He tributes his Dark Magician and then summons Magician of Chaos. So based on this, we know exactly what Yugi had in his hand up to when he played his ritual spell. We knew his ritual spell was on the field, which means he never had a ritual monster in his hand. We saw his hand. So that means ritual monsters 100% during Duelist Kingdom are extra deck monsters. Now, I will make the case they could be being summoned from the deck, the main deck, instead of a extra deck or pocket or wherever they're getting them from.
So kind of like sack Samsara D Lotus, tribute as cost, bring Spirit of Yubel out from deck, right?
However, my case to lean more from the coming from the extra deck is because they never say the words, I summon the ritual monster from my deck or anything like that. It always seems like it's appeared from somewhere else. Not only that, but we also never see a ritual monster in hand throughout any duels, which I would have thought either would have happened just by chance they happened to draw it, or for the animators to show a ritual monster in hand as kind of a foreshadowing, like, oh, this powerful monster in his hand, how can he get that out? He's after the ritual spell. So to me, it makes me think, yeah, they're not main deck monsters at all. They're extra deck monsters. So
I mean, honestly, it would make a lot of sense. Like, I think this personally makes a lot of sense. Like, I've had discussions on this exact topic before, but obviously TGS Anime here has cited his work where he's just like, oh yeah, here's we went through the card breakdown, we've done this, cool, bro, there's your works cited page right here, this video for this exact concept. I feel that rituals suffer from the effect of old school Yu-Gi-Oh balancing, and what I alluded to with Crystal Beast earlier is when you look at cards design nowadays, I mean, let's just go with Fiendsmith, right? Fiendsmith Engraver, right? He does a lot, let's be real, especially when you have Sequence, Requiem, etc. Right? He does a lot, which is a lot different from restrictions on cards like Rainbow Dragon back in the day. And now, well, that's obviously, you know, engine piece versus, you know, boss monster. So I get, you know, you would absolutely be correct. Let's do something like, I don't know, Cosmo Dark Destroyer versus Rainbow Dragon, right? One of these is significantly easier to get out. Both are boss monsters effectively of their respective decks, right? Of their respective archetypes. Rainbow Dragon, being a 4K beater in the era it was released in, obviously needed to, not only from a deck perspective, but have that collaboration Crystal Beast kind of effect, which unfortunately makes the deck really, 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 really slow in comparison to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, the support has fixed a lot of these issues, some of these issues even. However, there are cards that can just blow out the deck, especially you know what to hit. That being said, you can also say that about Yubel, Ash Blossom, Samsara D Lotus. Like, that generally is kind of the play to disrupt Yubel's plays, right? So the way that I interpret this, and the way that I've always interpreted ritual monsters, is that they're from the extra deck, as they're kind of this concept outside of the game. But then again, I guess that's also hindsight, having the fusion deck, you know, playing the actual TCG and then going back into it, right? So, well, fusion deck at the time, right now, is known as the extra deck. So I see it as a balancing point, and that's how I'm tying this into the whole Crystal Beast Cosmo argument, is because effectively when you're looking at old fusion monsters, right, you need X and Y or XYZ. How do you get out Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon? You must fuse together using polymerization or like card, you know, 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, or cards that are named Blue Eyes White Dragon, right? Using Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon, right? Or you look at something like a Gaia the Dragon Champion, right? Gaia the Fierce Knight and Curse of Dragon, right? Like, there's specific things you have to use to get your end product. With a ritual, it's any 2 monsters, right? I believe we saw, was it Dark Magician and Karibo? I'm trying to figure out where Magician of Black Chaos is. Whatever Yugi ended up using for that, right? No, it was Jigen Bakudan and Dark Magician to make a Magician of Black Chaos, right? Where it's not like synchro summoning, which came down the line, obviously, where you're obviously worried about levels. You're not worried about specific materials. It's, do you have 2 bodies on board? Yes? Cool. Drop the ritual spell, sack 2. You're effectively tribute summoning with a catalyst, right? The catalyst being the ritual spell allowing you to dig into your extra deck, right? You're effectively summoning Mega Mobius on a special summon, right? Using 2 tributes. So that's how I interpret that. And how that gets into the balancing aspect is, okay, but why would you ever try to use something like Meteor Black Dragon? Why would you ever try to use something like, Gaia the Dragon Champion? Why would you ever use something like Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon when you can get something like Blackluster Soldier, Magician of Black Chaos out way easier? Even in Pegasus's own deck, 1,000 Dies Restrict requires Thousand Eyes Idol, right? And Relinquished, right? You must fuse both of those monsters together to make Thousand Eyes Restrict, right? Versus, yeah, I'm just gonna use my ritual spell to tribute anything, literally anything, because it's a level 1, as long as level requirement is reached, right? To summon Relinquished. So that's why I view it as, okay, for balancing reasons, because this is seen more as a tribute rather than specific materials needed to make the end product. That's why I think that it's a balancing ism, especially of old Yu-Gi-Oh, to reach the decision to put it in the main deck. That's at least my subjective take on this. I'm having to balance between a few different topics here to kind of expand and extrapolate on my point. But all of this would make a lot more sense.
The next question is this also true for...
Mostly, yeah. I think so.
There are 4 ritual monsters summoned throughout the entirety of Battle City. First of all, let's get the one that inspired this video out the way.
Can we just get a modern Mystical Beast circuit, please?
After Umbra summons his masked beast ritual monster, his hand of 5 should now have gone to 3 since he used 2 cards in his hand, the ritual spell and the ritual monster. However, next time we see his hand, he's got 4 cards in there. Meaning the only way that this maths can make sense is if he used only 1 card in his hand, which was the ritual spell. So, the masked beast came from the extra deck. But what about...
Mako Tsunami, right?
This duel, by the way, Joey versus Mako Tsunami, has, for some reason, Duelist Kingdom logic to the duels. Like, monsters can be underwater for so long, you can hide monsters underwater. Yeah. There's so much wacky stuff. It's like a Season 1 duel. I am scared for my future self that has to analyze this duel. Please don't request it. But
wink, wink.
From my findings, what did I discover partially analyzing this duel? Despite the fact that hand sizes are constantly wrong throughout this duel, no cards in hand, then a bunch of cards in hand. It's a bit of a mess, but it's fine. Since what we do see is Mako drawing his Fortress Whale's Oath, activating it, tributing Jellyfish and Great White from his hand to ritual summon Fortress Whale.
It's so wild that there's like what new Kairyushins and Jellyfish support. It's kind of wild because I've had to play against it on Master Duel. Chat was out and we were playing it. And I'm like, wow, it's actually such a cool deck.
Now, his hand size should go down by 3 here. 6 cards, Ritual Monster, if we're going by my logic. So we should have 3 cards left.
Sure.
However, next time we see his hand, well, it's gone. This is a continuity error. They keep making mistakes with the hand in this episode. Yeah. But it does reappear later. And luckily, the number of cards in his hand appears to be right from the cards he used to get to that point. Meaning, yes, the number of cards in his hand after reverse engineering the duel is correct had the ritual monster in his hand been an extra deck monster.
That's such a wild one. I'm pretty sure it's just an animation shorthand that they're missing it, but this definitely leads into a situation where TGS Anime literally has to reverse engineer the duel to even get to the point. And even then, the fact that it was still correct at the end, I feel like that might just be an animation shorthand. It's interesting to think about.
So this was a messy one, but it is confirmed. Citadel Whale, well, it came from the extra deck. But what about... Now, this duel has a few hand size consistencies. Even worse, it has Bandit Keith cheesing cards in and out of his hand to make the whole thing a real mess. This was a tough one to reverse engineer, but from what I have seen, Keith's hand is shown very often in the duel. And
didn't this fight take place before the Mako Tsunami fight? I'm 90% sure that this was like shotgunned in Season 2. Like this was the first thing. So we're not going in chronological order, yeah, because it should be... it should be Zera the Mant, then we're going into Mako Tsunami, Fortress Whale, or Citadel Whale, excuse me, and then we go into Masked Beast, and then we follow up with what should be the final one down the line. Yeah, Ritual Beat Circuit.
Not once does he ever have Zera the Mant in it. So let's make sure. Keith starts his turn with 5 cards, he uses Graceful Charity, and then uses his Zera Ritual. So he should end the turn with 4 cards in his hand if my theory that rituals come from the extra deck. So is there any evidence for this? Well, yes. Next turn is when we see his hand. He draws for turn and has 5 cards. Sayaryu, which he summons to the field, along with Solemn Judgment, Ground Attack Bergoth, Curse of Fiend, and Stop Defense.
It's all
so
judgment.
confirmation yet again, but we have one last one.
Bandit Pete ain't playing no games. He's playing Solemn Judgment in GOAT format. Actually, from what I understand, Solemn Judgment's actually a very controversial card going into formats like GOAT format because of information that was gained as the game progresses. It's really interesting to think about, right? Like, cards like Solemn Judgment absolutely existed in the era. But our understanding and use case of cards like Solemn Judgment have changed over the years. So is it necessarily fair to go back into a retro format with the card in it and play it like we're playing the modern game, right? It's having knowledge of the future being applied to a retro format, thus causing controversy with the card. It's so interesting to think about retro and proprietary formats like that.
Yes, by the way, Mystical Beast Circuit in the anime is a ritual monster.
Wild.
Fun fact, it's actually summoned kind of interestingly as well. Odeon, on the turn he summons this monster, has 3 cards in his hand. He activates the ritual spell in his hand, along with the set ritual that is face down on his field, along with the field spell he already has on the field.
Dude, you could make such a banger modern deck with retrains. Like how we're getting retrains of like Millennium Golem and stuff for like Exodia. How Shining Sark has retrains of like Silent Swordsman and stuff like that, and like Summon Skull. Can we get like a heart with eyes of blue, right? For Exodia, right? Grandpa's blue eyes. Can we just get like retrains for Circuit, please? Like make Mystical Beast Circuit like the brick that you run in the deck. Sure, whatever. Don't even care. I would absolutely be just ecstatic if we got like a modern competitive Odeon like archetype. That'd be fantastic.
He summons Circuit. So 3 cards, he only used 1 in his hand, so he should have 2. How many does he have the next time we see him? Well, next time we see his hand, look at that! 2 cards in his hand, meaning Circuit was summoned from his extra deck. Because if it would have come from his hand, he would have only had 1 card. So if you've been counting along, that is all 7 ritual monsters summoned during Duelist Kingdom and Battle City, summoned from the extra deck. And just to clarify and prove it doesn't apply for the later seasons, in the virtual world arc, which I know happens in the middle of Battle City, when you see the big 5 summon their 5-headed dragon, oh look at that, it's in their hand. The same also applies to the other 2 rituals used, the one by Darts and the one by Kyber. The number of cards in their hand changes, even though we don't see the monster, so there you go. Crazy bit of coincidence. Just so happens the Rush Duel game has had ritual monsters added to it. And you'll never guess what ritual monsters do in Rush Duel. They are summoned from the extra deck.
Fair enough.
I think that's crazy coincidence. I'm making a video about ritual monsters being from the extra deck. Rush Duel, just by chance, the same week I'm making my video, you can summon them from the extra deck in Rush Duels now. I think that's crazy.
That.
To end this video, I want to ask you all a question. If Duel Monsters would have stuck with ritual monsters being extra deck monsters, do you think they would have been exceptionally strong? Just imagine.
Yes, absolutely. Please see my argument about Mega Mobius, right? Literally just tributing Jigen Bakudan and Dark Magician to reach, right? To be able to reach Magician of Black Chaos. It's just a tribute with extra steps. It does not become, you must have Alistair the Invoker on board. You must have 1 branded card on board. You must have 1 Yubel plus whatever monsters, right? You are effectively, are you meeting level requirement? Yes. It's effectively the shotgun special summon approach.
Imagine the fact that you could activate Black Illusion Ritual on the turn you draw it, tribute any level 1 or higher monster on the field, and then just summon a Relinquished from your extra deck. But with that in mind, it would also mean in modern day, where the extra deck is kind of limited, you get 15 cards to fill that baby up. Most Link Synchro Fusion monsters are quite necessary to put in there. But if you
Bro, you don't, my extra deck for Yubel frustrates me. Because I have to run Fiendsmith package. I like running 3 Phantom, but I've had to cut down to 2 because that spate is tight, man. You're running Varudris, you're running DDD Hivewing Kaisar, you're having, dude, the deck is so tight. And now imagine trying to get like a Relinquish package in there, bro.
play a ritual deck, that's also going to take up the spaces in there. Obviously, a lot of ritual decks now are based on the ritual monsters having effects in the hand and things like that, so it probably wouldn't work out as well. But I mean, if you were willing to take the hit on those certain cards, you could completely drastically change the way rituals are played. Interested to hear your opinions below. Other than that though, thank you all for watching. Check out this video if you fancy, or this one if you fancy that one. Thank you all for watching. Catch you later.
What an absolute Chad bodybuilding. Here I am, I just sit day after day. Like, I've been itching to go out to SCA and sword fight again. Man, he's making me want to get active. Dude is absolutely just sculpted. What an absolute Chad. So I do love TGS anime content. Absolutely. I know I haven't reacted to him in a hot minute. I know I haven't reacted to Yu-Gi-Oh content in a hot minute. And I do apologize for that. I'm trying to not do 3 or 4 uploads a day. I know I get a lot of react requests, which are in the Discord. There's channels dedicated to that and firearms reactions. I've been doing my best to get to them. I just haven't really felt really good this entire past year, if I'm being completely honest. Trying to take steps to take better care of my health and trying to just get active, right? Let me know feedback wise. One, if you like this. First and foremost, most importantly, go and check out TGS Anime. Dude puts out banger work. He just puts out really cool things. I honestly didn't know people, I guess, didn't have this discussion. I'm just so used to having this discussion. I mean, I discuss game design. I've made the joke that I just need to become Wish.com Seto Kaiba and just make a card game and just become that guy. Like, do something with this weird amount of just game design knowledge that I have and my passion for game design. Let me know if that would be interesting. However, if I would like to open up to people who do like Yu-Gi-Oh content, as well as Pokemon content as well, it does become really tight trying to prioritize a bunch of things, and I'm trying to increase my spread as well. I don't want to necessarily react, just strictly become react, but having a kind of segment, right, would be something that I would be interested in doing, as far as maybe like a once a week kind of thing. Once we start getting to twice a week, I think I start to limit what I do. Twice a week is kind of my max on some of these other channels, but I do have Kip Yugioh. I've tried doing some things on there. If that does interest you, this does exist. I've kind of neglected it for a little bit, which I do apologize about. I'm trying to balance several channels at once. Let me know what your thoughts are, if having a dedicated Yu-Gi-Oh space for Yu-Gi-Oh reactions would help. If you think that would help with Clog on Kip Reacts as a channel, to kind of cut down on that and then to move it over to Kip Yugioh. Let me know in the comment section down below. I do appreciate all of you for watching. Definitely go check out TGS Anime, and thank you all for watching.